So, Kristen, what would your dream power be?
In my dreams, I do gymnastics.
Okay. What about you, Joey?
In my dreams, I could talk.
Okay, I mean, you're talking right now, but that's a pretty cool power, too. What about you, Kincaid? And I'm not even exaggerating when I say this. This is what the character of Kincaid sounds like from Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
I'm gonna be the strongest motherfucker alive, motherfucker! Where you at, Kruger? Fucking pussy!
A Nightmare... Oh, I love Kincaid. Nightmare on Elm Street 3 was written by Wes Craven and was directed by Chuck Russell. The story this time around follows after a hallucinatory accident. Kristen Parker has her wrist slashed by dream-stalking monster Freddy Krueger. Her mother, mistaking the wounds for a suicide attempt, sends her to a psych ward, where she joins a group of similar teens. Not only is Dream Warriors my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street movie, it's one of my favorite horror movies of all time. The TV death scene inspired the name of this channel.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Freddy's one-liners in this one are so iconic. This one really finds that mix of camp and horror, and is the movie that shot Freddy Krueger into pop culture icon status. And camp and horror are two tones that are hard to blend together, but when you have Robert Englund as the role as Freddy Krueger, it just makes things a lot much easier for the filmmakers. I love Equipier Freddy. It makes him stand out from all the other horror slashers. And I love the concept of all these teens coming together in this isolated environment to take on Freddy in their dreams. Dream Warriors by far has some of the best teenager characters ever in a horror slasher film. All these teens are there with substance and their own quirks rather than having your average tripping over sticks and rocks kind of teenagers. What I thought added a lot to this franchise is how they welded older characters with the newer characters. Older meaning Nancy and her dad, and the newer ones this group of teenagers. In the original, Nancy had to overcome her fear to beat Freddy. In here, Kristen has the ability to pull others into her dreams, which later on, all of them have dream powers. Nancy is by far my favorite final girl, and when she meets up with Freddy again for the first time since the original film, she sees him as this big, disgusting, practical effect worm, and he goes, "You."
Oh my God.
It really sets the stakes for this film, and it actually does feel like a true finale to this trilogy before the other ones came out. The dream sequences in this one are elevated to big heights than the original. There's both good stop motion in this movie, and then there's dated stop motion. But I'll talk about that one later. A really good one has to deal with the character Philip, who's into string puppets. And then when he goes to sleep and has a nightmare, Freddy Krueger shows up as one of those puppets, and it looks incredible. And then he takes the veins from Philip's body to mimic the strings from a string puppet. You sick, twisted... And as we continue with these deaths, you have the TV scene, the alley scene.
Let's get high.
Although I do believe these characters lacked imagination when it came to having dream powers. Like, seriously, Will was the only one that got it right. He actually dreamt of having powers. It didn't work. He still got gutted, and he looked stupid. But, I mean, at least he's the only one that got the memo.
Sorry, kid. I don't believe in fairy tales.
There's a really cool scene that never gets talked about enough, and that's when the character Joey is trying to find his dream power, which is still another whack power that someone could dream of when you could just do it in real life, and that's talk. But while he's struggling to find that, everybody's getting swallowed up in these mirrors. And then he lets out a loud scream. And then everybody gets spit out of those mirrors. I love the shot they went with when pulling off that stunt. It was beautifully done. And then we find out in the third act that Freddy's victims just don't die. He absorbs their souls to become more powerful, and their souls are trapped and tormented, which I think just added another layer of terror to his character. As I mentioned earlier, there is some dated stop motion. That being Freddy's bones. You probably know what I'm talking about. It's probably best to ignore it. I mean, can't really do anything about it. They did what they could back then. But definitely a huge step up from Freddy's Revenge. Another thing I'm a big fan of when it comes to this movie is the use of fantasy elements. That's kind of what's happening with the current Terrifier franchise, a franchise I also love. There is implications to Freddy's backstory in this one, having to deal with his deceased mom. I'm glad they kept it in the background because I felt like it was only necessary to set up for more sequels, which being the case. Though it's not as scary or creepy as the original, but all things considered, it's still a fun slasher movie with some really impressive practical effects, with some good kills, and a good performance from Robert Englund and the rest of the cast. That was Nightmare on Elm Street 3, people. I love this movie. Thank you for watching. And as always, I look forward to bringing you guys more reviews soon. I'm Matt, and I'll see you guys in the next video.